The first time I heard my best friend's mother say my name over a microphone, my stomach dropped. Not because I was in trouble, not because I had done anything wrong, but because of the way her voice cracked when she said it. "Before everyone leaves tonight," she announced, standing near the backyard stage, "there's something I need to tell all of you about someone who is here." More than 100 faces turned toward her. Then she looked directly at me. And suddenly, every secret I had spent years hiding felt like it was about to spill into the open. I stood frozen beside a folding table covered in empty soda bottles and paper plates. I had spent the entire day helping at the party, setting up tents, moving chairs, serving food, cleaning spills, doing all the jobs nobody noticed, the way I always did. Because helping people was easier than talking about myself. My name is Ethan. I was 32 years old, lived alone in a small apartment outside Columbus, Ohio, and worked maintenance for a local school district. Nothing remarkable, nothing special. At least that's what I always believed. My best friend, Sarah, had invited me to her family's annual summer reunion. Her family threw the biggest gatherings I had ever seen. There were cousins from 5 states, grandparents, neighbors, friends, children running everywhere. It looked like something from a movie. I almost didn't go. Big crowds made me uncomfortable. But Sarah insisted. "Your family," she told me. I laughed. "Your family might disagree." "They won't." She was wrong. At least, I thought she was. When I arrived that morning, nobody seemed interested in talking to me. Most of them barely knew me. A few offered polite smiles. Others walked past without noticing me at all. So I did what I always did. I got to work. When one of the tents collapsed because of a loose support pole, I fixed it. When the grill ran out of propane, I drove to get another tank. When the kids needed help setting up a volleyball net, I handled it. When an elderly guest struggled carrying a cooler, I carried it for him. Nobody asked, I just did it. Helping felt natural. Being seen never did. By afternoon, the party was in full swing. Music played, people laughed, children chased each other across the yard. Everyone seemed happy. Everyone except Sarah's mother, Linda. I noticed it several times. She kept disappearing into the house. Her eyes looked red. Every time someone asked if she was okay, she smiled and changed the subject. Something was wrong. I just didn't know what. Around 6 o'clock, I walked into the kitchen carrying a tray of empty cups. That's when I found her standing alone, crying. Not quietly, not the kind of tears people can hide. These were deep, painful tears. I immediately turned toward the door. "Sorry," I said. But she stopped me. She wiped her face. "Stay." I hesitated. "Everything okay?" She laughed bitterly. "Not really." For several seconds neither of us spoke. Then she surprised me. "Do you ever feel invisible?" The question caught me off guard. "All the time." She nodded. "I thought so." That conversation lasted nearly an hour, longer than all the conversations we'd had during the previous 10 years combined. She told me her husband had died 18 months earlier. Most people already knew that. What they didn't know was how badly she was struggling. The loneliness, the financial stress, the endless pressure of pretending she was okay. "I smile because everyone expects me to," she said. "But some days I don't know how." I listened. That was all. No advice, no speeches, just listening. Sometimes that's what people need most. When she finished talking, she looked lighter, not healed, but lighter. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me." I didn't understand what she meant. Not then. The party continued. The sun started setting. String lights flickered on. Families gathered for photos. Kids roasted marshmallows. Everything felt normal. Then came the announcement. Linda walked onto the small stage. She took the microphone, and she said my name. My heart pounded. Every conversation stopped. The yard fell silent. "Many of you know Ethan as Sarah's friend," Linda began. "Some of you know him as the quiet guy who fixes things." A few people laughed softly. She smiled. Then her expression changed. "But what most of you don't know is what he's done for this family." I immediately shook my head. Whatever this was, I didn't want it. Attention made me uncomfortable. Recognition made me want to disappear. But Linda continued, after my husband died, I was drowning. The crowd became completely silent. My family lives in different states. My children were doing their best, but I spent many nights alone. She paused. Then Ethan started showing up. Confused murmurs spread through the crowd. I felt heat rise into my face. Sometimes he fixed things around the house. People nodded. That part wasn't unusual. But sometimes he just sat with me while I cried. The murmurs stopped. He shoveled snow from my driveway before work. He brought groceries when I was too overwhelmed to shop. He repaired things without charging a dime. He checked on me during holidays because he knew those were the hardest days. I wanted the ground to swallow me. Nobody was supposed to know any of that. Not because I was ashamed. Because kindness shouldn't come with applause. Linda's voice trembled. And that's not even the most important part. I looked down. I already knew where this was going. Years earlier, Sarah's younger brother, Jake, had struggled with addiction. Almost nobody knew the full story, especially not the extended family. What they didn't know was how close he'd come to dying, or how many late-night phone calls I'd answered, or how many times I'd driven across town to pick him up, or how many hours I'd spent sitting beside him during recovery. I never told anyone. Neither did Jake, until now. Linda wiped away tears. When my son was at his lowest point, Ethan never gave up on him. The crowd looked stunned. He stayed. He answered every call. He reminded my son that his life mattered. I glanced toward Jake. His eyes were filled with tears. So if my son is standing here healthy today, Linda said, a piece of that credit belongs to Ethan. The silence became overwhelming. I couldn't breathe. I hated attention. But this wasn't attention. It felt different. Raw. Real. Then Linda revealed something I never expected. 3 months earlier, my apartment building had caught fire. Nothing major. But the damage forced residents to relocate temporarily. I never told anyone how difficult that period had been. I stayed in cheap motels, worked extra shifts, pretended everything was fine. Apparently Linda knew, and apparently she told nobody, until now. When Ethan needed help, she said softly, he didn't ask for it. Her voice cracked. Because that's who he is. She looked at the crowd. He helps everyone, then suffers alone. The words hit harder than anything else, because they were true. For years I had convinced myself that helping people was enough, that my own struggles didn't matter, that asking for help was weakness. Linda looked directly at me. Today I'm exposing something. The crowd listened carefully. The truth. She smiled through tears. The truth is that this young man has spent years holding people together. Tonight I want him to know he doesn't have to carry everything by himself. I couldn't stop crying. Neither could she. Neither could Sarah, or Jake, or several people in the audience. Then something incredible happened. One by one, people stood. Not because they were told to, because they wanted to. An elderly man approached me first. Thank you, he said. Then another person, then another, and another. Dozens, people I barely knew. People sharing stories, small stories. Stories I had forgotten. The time I fixed someone's flat tire. The time I helped move furniture. The time I volunteered after a storm. The time I stayed late helping a stranger. Actions that seemed insignificant to me, but apparently weren't. For nearly an hour, people shared memories. And for the first time in my life, I understood something important. Kindness leaves footprints, even when you can't see them, especially when you can't see them. As the evening wound down, Sarah sat beside me near the fire pit. You okay? She asked. I laughed through tears. Not really. Good or bad? Good. She smiled. Mum's been planning that speech for weeks. What? She found out how many people you'd helped. I stared at her. She called them. Seriously? She wanted proof. I shook my head. That's ridiculous. No, Sarah said. What's ridiculous is that you thought none of it mattered. The fire crackled softly. Children laughed in the distance. The stars appeared overhead. For a long moment, Neither of us spoke. Then Sarah nudged my shoulder. "You know what my dad used to say?" "What?" "The strongest people aren't the ones who carry everything." I waited. "They're the ones who finally let others carry something for them." That stayed with me. Months later, it still does. Because that night changed more than I realized. People started checking on me. Not because they felt sorry for me. Because relationships work both ways. I learned to accept help. I learned to ask for support. I learned that being strong doesn't mean being alone. And I learned something else. Something bigger. The world doesn't change because of grand speeches, or famous people, or perfect moments. It changes because ordinary people choose kindness when nobody is watching. A ride home, a phone call, a listening ear, a simple act of compassion. Most of us never realize how much those things matter until someone tells the story out loud. That summer evening began as just another family party. I thought I was there to serve food, move chairs, and clean tables. Instead, I walked away with something I never expected. Proof that every act of kindness matters. Proof that people remember. Proof that humanity is still alive in the small things. And proof that sometimes the greatest gift isn't helping others. It's allowing others to remind you that you matter too.